All right. So tonight we are making one pot fajita chicken pasta, which is going to be delicious. I'm pretty excited about it. Spoiler alert, I just made it and it's pretty great. So tonight you're going to need a bunch of different things. So I'm going to go through all the things that you're going to need, and then we are going to go through different steps in the process. So first of all, you need a good cutting board and a knife to cut up those vegetables. You're going to need one pot, as it says in the name. I use a pretty large pot. I do suggest you use a pot that's coated on the bottom, so not like a silver pot if you have a pot that's kind of like this, just because things stick really bad to the bottom. So when we get to the oil part, if you do have one that's a silver pot, just make sure you put extra oil in there. All right, you are gonna need peppers. You're gonna need some onion, which I've already cut up. Sorry, I didn't want to cry on camera. And then you need 3 chicken breasts, which I also already cut up. So for tonight, I'm going to show you how to cut up things, and I'll give you some tips and tricks for how to cut up things. But the big thing here is that I'm actually going to be a step ahead of everyone as we go through it. I'm doing that for a reason, because as we get to the end, it's all going to even out. So I'm going to be a step ahead so you can see what you're going to be doing next. So don't feel like you have to rush to get to the point that I'm at. I'm just going to be just slightly ahead of everybody throughout the whole process. If at any point I'm going way too fast for you, just let me know and be like, Melanie, slow your roll. I am not there yet. Just let me know. I can slow down. Not a big deal. All right. Pasta. You need some penne pasta. You need some garlic powder. Beautiful, Jordan. Chili powder. Cumin. Salt. Mine's sea salt. Don't know why, but that's all I have. Any salt will do. Ground pepper. And olive oil. During the process too, you're gonna cook the chicken, then take the chicken out of the pot. So you're gonna need an extra bowl for that. So if you haven't grabbed one of those, go ahead and grab that now. And then measuring cups, teaspoon and tablespoon. Okay. All right. How are we all feeling? Julie, how you feeling? Perfect. All right. Here we go. So we're going to start, and we're going to do this in phases. The first thing we're going to do is cook the chicken and then take it out of the bowl. Anyway, put it into a different bowl. Next, we're going to cook the vegetables and then put it all together with some milk and penne pasta. So the milk and penne pasta comes later, and I definitely didn't say you need milk, but you definitely need some milk as well. All right. Okay, so first things first, you're gonna take that one giant pot that you have, and you're gonna put about 3 tablespoons of olive oil in there. I am someone who eyeballs things, but if you are someone who measures things out, 3 tablespoons is what you need of olive oil. And I'm just coating the bottom of the pan, and you're just gonna swirl it around in your pan so that it coats the bottom really nicely. Beautiful. All right. Coat the bottom of your pan, set it on the stove, and go ahead and turn on your stove to about medium high. So on my stove, I have numbers, so I'm gonna go for about a 7.5 to an 8. You don't want it to be so high that it burns everything really badly, so you want it to be just between the medium and high. And we're gonna leave that there and let it heat up while we cut up some chicken. All right, just gonna re-angle here. All right. Okay. So next what we're going to do is we're going to cut up chicken into cubes. And like I said, 3 chicken breasts is what you're using. So I already cut up some, but I'm going to show you how I cube it. So sometimes with chicken breast, it has an extra piece that's folded under. You want to make sure that's laying flat out. So you're kind of pulling it apart a little bit. Okay. So we're going to cut cubes. I'm going to slice across first into strips. And if you're a true fajita fan, that if you want to make chicken strips, you can. You just want to make sure that if you slice them, you slice through the breast first, and then you slice it in half again, lengthwise. So just like this. Okay. So if you're a fajita fan, you just want to make the strips a little bit smaller, like that. Now, I personally am going to cube the chicken because that's my preference. So I'm going to cube the chicken, cut some strips first, and then cube them later. The size of those are going to be just about that size. See that there? Awesome. Bailey, I'm loving the recognition the whole way through. Appreciate that. All right. All right. It's quite a lot of chicken. It's a good thing. You have lots of leftovers, which is awesome. So once again, this is about the size you're looking for chicken. Okay. All right. I'm going to go a step ahead of you. I'm sure not everyone's done yet, and that's okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this in the pot. It should be, when I throw it in the pot, you should hear sizzle. And that's a good thing. All right. Don't forget, after you handle chicken, you probably want to rinse off your knife and you want to wash your hands so you don't cross-contaminate things. So I'm going to do that real quick. All right. So once you put your chicken in the pot, you're going to cook it for about 5 to 7 minutes. What you're trying to do is make sure that you don't see any pink on the exterior of the chicken, but it doesn't need to necessarily be cooked all the way through. What you're trying to do is just for now is just kind of like hand sear it, if you will, before you actually take it out of the bowl. Because if you think about it, it's going to be thrown back into the pan again, and it's going to be simmering for about 20 minutes. So if it's not fully cooked all the way through, it will by the end of the process. So really you're just trying to get all the pink to not show on the chicken. And you want to stir fairly frequently. And I'm someone who seasons on my way through. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of salt and pepper in there just to coat the top. If you don't like salt very much, then I don't suggest you do this step, but I do, so I'm going to put some salt in there. Just coat the top, just like that. And if you're a pepper fan, then put some pepper on there too.
Hey, Melanie, can you clarify what pot what is going in?
Say it one more time.
Can you clarify like what pot is going in what?
Oh, just one pot. The whole thing is going in one pot.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're gonna take the chicken out and put it into a bowl, and then leave it out for while we cook the vegetables, and then put it back in.
Got it. Okay.
All right. Does everyone have their chicken in the pot, or getting pretty close? No, not yet. Okay, cool. All right. I don't know if you can hear that noise from my pot, but if you can, that's what you want to hear. You want to hear it sizzling. You want to hear it kind of at a high heat sizzle. What you're hearing right now is exactly what you want. All right, let's get some thumbs up if we have chicken in the pot yet. Cool. Excellent. All right. All right. So at the moment, mine is about halfway done. Notice how there's a lot of pink, but there's mostly edges of white. So that means it's about halfway done right there. So I'm gonna put it back on the stove, and once all that pink is gone, I'll take it off. Okay, while I'm letting that do its thing, I'm gonna move on to some vegetables. We're just gonna start cutting up vegetables. We're not putting them in the pot yet. Okay? So I'm gonna start with my onion, and you really wanna make really thin slices of onion. And you're gonna make them in so that they come out in little pieces that look a lot like that. Okay, so it's gonna be very straight edges. My way of doing that, is to cut around the core, so that you can actually follow the lines down the onion, and that's about as thin as you want. So if you notice on an onion, it has lots of straight lines that go down the onion. So you are literally just gonna cut on those lines. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna cut the edge off, and all I should have at the end of this is a core left over, okay? So then I'm gonna follow the lines that are directly on that onion, straight down, and I'm just gonna cut very thin strips down. What that'll do is it'll create perfect strips of onion, like a fajita for you, without having to kind of guess how to cut it. I've also heard that by not cutting the core of an onion, it helps us so you don't cry as much. I don't know if that's the truth or not, but I've heard good things about that. All right. My chicken is done and ready to come off the stove. This is what it looks like. You can't see very much pink in there at all. That's what you want. I can tell it's not all the way cooked, but that's fine. All you're trying to do is remove the pink color. So that's when you take it off. You want some oil to be left in there, so if you have a spoon or a spatula or something like that to grab it out of, that would be my suggestion. It's just gonna go right into a bowl until we come back to it later. All right, as you can see, I've got some leftover juices in there. You want that. That's actually gonna help flavor the vegetables when you cook them. All right, now here's my trick with a pepper. I don't know if anyone has used this trick before too, but if you flip over a pepper, you notice that it has lines that go through it. It has distinct lines. It's usually between 2 and 4 lines that go distinctly through it. So mine has 2. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut all the way down those lines to the stem. Sorry, I'm showing you in the wrong spot. So I'm gonna go from this line down to the stem on both sides of mine. You might have 4, so you're gonna just cut every single one of those lines from the middle down, okay? So it's gonna look like this. Cut down the line. You don't cut through, just cut down to the stem. And then tear it apart. Oh, this one doesn't have 4. Hold on. So when you tear it, then the seeds come off with it. So you don't have seeds left over. So instead of having to like scrape out the seeds, when you tear it down, the seeds just automatically come out with the stem, which is kind of cool. So, and then if you have a leftover white stuff, you can just tear it off instead of cut it. It's actually way easier to do it that way. So that's my little cool thing to do with the pepper. Okay, so once again, when you get down to that end, you should be able to tear it right down and all of those seeds come out with it. So much easier and less messy. It's awesome. All right. And then to actually cut them, same as you did with the onions, you're just gonna go really small lines down so that you've got pretty small pieces, a lot like this. All right, if you haven't, I would check on that chicken. Just make sure you give it a good stir. See if it has cooked where you can't see any of the pink anymore. It's more of a white color. Is anyone able to split their pepper correctly? Justin, I see you getting after it.
I don't know if correctly is the right word, but we're close.
Find the lines.
Yeah.
Cut down 4 basically, so it makes 4, so it almost blooms. Yeah. Perfect.
Kinda.
Kinda.
I didn't cut my hand off, so it's a win.
Oh, there you go.
We're currently using already prepped peppers that are in cubes, so.
Oh, well, there you go. Look at you go.
We didn't get to use the trick.
That's why.
Cheaters. Next time. All right, I think I have a lot of vegetables here, so I'm gonna put these into the hot pan, but I'm actually gonna coat it with just a little bit more oil, just to make sure that it doesn't stick really bad. When you put the vegetables in after your chicken is done, it's gonna be another 5 to 7 minutes that these are gonna cook. You wanna make sure that that you flip them frequently. They're gonna brown a little bit, and the peppers especially are gonna brown a little bit. But what you're actually looking for is for your onions to go from this white color to really opaque, and they're gonna be a little more flimsy, almost like a worm, if you will. So you want the onions to be the teller of when they're done, okay? So just a little bit more oil for me. I'm gonna toss those vegetables right in.
Do you recommend the same temperature for the vegetables?
Yes, exactly the same. You're gonna be on the same temperature the whole time.
Okay.
Also, since I'm someone who loves seasoning, I'm gonna add some salt in there. If you love salt, like once again, add it to it. If you don't, then don't. And with the vegetables, you're gonna stir frequently, not because they're gonna stick, but mostly because you wanna make sure all the different vegetables touch the bottom of the pan at some point in the grilling process. So you wanna make sure you flip them so that every piece of vegetable gets to hit the bottom of the pan and kind of get browned. All right, so far our chicken should have come off the stove by now. And then we should be either cutting vegetables or putting vegetables into the pan, either way. All right. So that is it for your knife and for your cutting board. So if you want, you can get those out of your way, and we'll move on to the next thing. know about you, but my favorite part of cooking this is the smell of the vegetables with all the onions. It just smells so good. All right, stirring those up. Okay, I can tell my vegetables are about halfway done because when I look at all the onions, they're just like halfway translucent. They're not quite browned yet, and they're not quite opaque. They're just kind of in the middle, and they're kind of feeling like really loose, if you will. They're not so hardened anymore, and so that's kind of a halfway point. When you start to see some browning or really translucent onions, that's when you're done. Okay. How's everybody doing with either cutting up vegetables? Can I get a thumbs up for at least cutting up vegetables? Everybody's good there? Cool. And then everybody's gotten them in the pan? Even better. Kind of, sort of. Justin's almost there. We'll take it. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mix up into a small bowl, if you have one, just a little bowl. We're going to put all of our spices into one and mix them up together. That way when we put them in the pan, you're just going to sprinkle it all over. This is where the garlic powder, the chili powder, cumin, salt, and pepper come in. Okay, so we need a tablespoon of chili powder. I'm one of these people who takes the top off of everything, so I'm literally going to take the top off of all my spices and go for it. Basically what we're making right now is taco seasoning, by the way, so if you've never made taco seasoning, you're about to learn, because that's basically what we're doing. So, fun fact. All right, tablespoon of chili powder, tablespoon of cumin, all right, a tablespoon of garlic powder,
Donald broke my tablespoon, so now I'm literally using this little circle.
Oh my gosh. Oh no, sounds like you owe a new one.
I bought her stainless steel ones in the mail so that I don't break them again.
That's a good idea. All right, you're gonna do a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. And with my pepper, it's the kind that you have to grind, so I'm just gonna go for it and see what we come up with. All right, if you haven't already, go ahead and stir those vegetables. Make sure those get all stirred.
How much salt did you say, Melanie?
1 teaspoon. If you're more of a salt lover, then a little bit more. right, now I'm gonna mix it all up together so it's kind of evenly dispersed throughout, because then when you put it in the pot with all the ingredients, make sure everything is coated really evenly. So I'm mixing it up prior to tossing it in there. All right, so little something like that. Once again, you just made taco seasoning, so now you know. Beautiful. Jordan, I like that bowl. It's really cute.
It's Chris's. I can't get credit.
Oh, well, Chris has great taste. So yeah, if you're ever like, I'm out of taco seasoning, now you have it. It's pretty nice. Okay, my vegetables are getting real close, but they're not quite there. But I am seeing some really translucent onions. So I'm probably like 2 minutes away from being done. So everyone else should be about just a little bit more time than that.
Can you go over the amounts of the spices again real quick?
Absolutely. So we need a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper.
Okay.
And then a tablespoon each of chili powder, cumin, and garlic powder.
All right, that I can handle. Probably.
Maybe. Oh, you have a grinder too? Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets you. It's an arm workout.
Something like that.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if you can see this, but baby Gunner is bouncing away over there on the Mackie screen. So cute.
He's my cooking buddy today.
So cute. All right. My vegetables are done. Whew, there's a lot of steam coming off of there. But if you can see, those onions are really translucent now. And basically everything should feel a little more translucent and more mushy is the best way to put it. They should wiggle a lot when you stir everything. Okay. So you have your vegetables, you have your chicken, and now you're gonna throw them all together into that one pot where the vegetables are already at. You put your chicken in there. Oops. Okay, so I just threw my chicken in with those vegetables into that one pan. And then you're gonna take all those spices and you're just gonna sprinkle it over the top and mix it all together. You want everything to be evenly coated in your pan. Or sorry, your pot. So just lightly sprinkle it in there. Everything should be coated well. So just mix and stir until it all seems like it's evenly spaced, everything is coated and covered.
Well, it smells pretty good. My dog is right at my feet waiting for me to drop some things.
This is one of the most like aromatic meals to make ever. It just smells so good. Once I get to this step, I'm like, all right, is it done yet? Okay. So I gave it like a good 30-second stir, and it was evenly coated like so. So you don't see any more dry spices anywhere. It's coating all the vegetables and chicken. All right. Okay, so we've cooked all of our meat and our vegetables. So now we're gonna go and pour in milk and pasta. So I'm gonna start with the pasta first. We're gonna use 4 cups of penne pasta. You're just gonna dump it into the pot, okay? I'm actually gonna measure this because if you use too much pasta, you need to add more milk. So I'm gonna actually measure it out. I have like a really large measuring cup. You can also just use a 1 cup measuring cup. That works great. So yeah. All right. 4 cups pasta. So I use the Barilla, and it leaves about a ½ cup left over, if that helps you at all. And it says that it is 1 pound. So just a little less than 1 pound. Okay.
Are we doing this on the burner or off of it? Do you know?
On the burner. Everything's
On
going
the-
directly into the pot now.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just put 4 cups of pasta in the pot with your vegetables and chicken. And now you're gonna do 5 cups of milk that goes over the top of that. So everything is gonna be in one pot together. This is gonna look kind of gross, I won't lie, but it's gonna be delicious later, I promise. All right, so once again, that was 4 cups of pasta into the pot with your vegetables and chicken, and then 5 cups of milk, all in one spot. So you get something that looks like that. Looks kind of gross at the moment. It's gonna look amazing once it's done. All right.
How is all that stuff fitting in that pot you have?
I'm like Mary Poppins, you know, just magic happens. It's a deceptive pot, that's for sure.
It really is.
Okay, so the big thing with having milk over high heat is that it will burn. And so something, Julie knows this, I know this, we cook with this type of stuff a lot. So you need to continuously stir. It also means that the pasta might stick to the bottom, so that's why we also continuously stir. Now, you don't have to continuously stir like the entire time because we're gonna be cooking this for about 15 to 20 minutes depending on how soft you like your pasta. But you do need to stir at least every minute. So this is gonna come to a boil, and then it's gonna start reducing down. And the milk is gonna start looking thicker and thicker and thicker as you go through the process. That's what you want. Basically what the milk is turning into is almost like an Alfredo, if you will. So it's gonna turn into like a sauce that covers the whole thing. So you're gonna know you're really close to done when it starts to stick to the pasta and the chicken and the vegetables. And you're gonna start to see a coating of the milk on everything.
Are we trying to bring it to a boil as in put it on high right now or leave it where it's at and wait?
It should be fine where it's at. But if it's not, if you don't see it within a couple minutes starting to boil, then yeah, you can turn it up to high. So 15 to 20 minutes of this. Super exciting stuff. What we're gonna do is continue to stir, like I said. You're gonna look for that milk to reduce, and you know it's gonna be really close to done as well when you look at the bottom. Maybe you even use your spoon to look towards the bottom, and there's no like coating of milk at the bottom, because that means that it's sticking to everything else, and that means that it's becoming more like a sauce rather than a soup. If you're ever looking to make an Alfredo, it's a really similar process. Basically, you're simmering milk with some flour and some butter and salt and pepper, and that's an Alfredo. And so you're making a simmer and it just reduces down the same way. What's nice about this meal, though, is that you don't have to boil the pasta. It just does the work for you in this one pot. All right, I'm gonna grab my pepper jack cheese. If you haven't grabbed that yet, you can also grab that out of the fridge. I'm gonna grab that real quick. My stuff are falling out of my cabinets. All right, now it's a waiting game, which is kind of fun. So it's just every minute to 2 minutes you're stirring, and then we just wait until it starts to get thick like a sauce. So once you know it's thick like a sauce in the pasta, and you always have to taste test something like this to make sure the pasta is where you want it to be. So you just want to make sure that after about 15 minutes of stirring and waiting, that your pasta is at the point that you want it to be at, which everyone has a different desired outcome for pasta, so I'm going to let you be the judge of that. But your pasta should be soft, and everything should be coated very well, like a sauce, and that's how you know it's completed. So taste test if you will, grab a fork, grab a spoon, anything like that, and go for it. Once you get to that point, and you feel like it's done in the pot, you're going to take a cup of pepper jack cheese, sprinkle it over the top, and mix it in. And then it's ready to serve. It looks something like that. So, I put fun stuff on the top because I'm really excited. I just planted a bunch of herbs and spices, so you don't have to be bougie like me, but but I got excited because I finally made green onions. So, you can put green onions on there. You can put cilantro. Oregano is always a good option, and if you feel it, basil. Other than that, we're good. I'm going to stick around, make sure everyone has everything, all the answers they need, but that's really the end of the cooking demo. So I'll stick around, like I said, if you want. I trust your cooking judgment, but if you want to stick around and show me what you made at the end, we're welcome to do that too. I appreciate you all being here, and I really appreciate you cooking with me. Next one is 2 Tuesdays from now, and we're going to be making a cinnamon roll apple pie. It's going to be good. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
It was good to see some of you who I recognize.
No problem. All right. Mine's finally boiling. I don't know about you all, but I'm finally getting to a point where it's boiling in there. Which means it's going to be another like 5 to 10 minutes where you're just going to start seeing it coat.
Melanie, if and when I screwed this up, just know that it's not you, it's me.
I have so much faith in you, Justin. I can't even imagine that happening.
You really shouldn't.
DJ, I don't see you cooking over there.
Jordan can attest to my cooking abilities.
All right.